I have mixed feelings about the Metal Gear Solid series. I really enjoy the stories of each game, and even though the cutscenes can drag, I still like watching them all. However, I've never really gotten on with the gameplay. The stealth doesn't work as well as you would like it to, and each game has their own annoying parts to play, like fighting the end in Metal Gear Solid 3 or the swimming bit in Metal Gear Solid 2. This is why I was pretty excited about playing Metal Gear Solid Rising when it was announced back at E3 2009. A Metal Gear game with reinvented, more action-based gameplay sounded great, and it was coming to 360 unlike Metal Gear Solid 4, so I could actually play it. Well, here I am 4 years later, and it finally got released. This game had a lot of problems in development. Kojima Productions, who made the other Metal Gear Solid games, had difficulty making a game based around using a sword, so the project eventually got scrapped at the end of 2010. However, a game studio called Platinum Games were becoming successful during this time, with games such as Bayonetta and Mad World, so Hideo Kojima asked them to develop the game instead. The game was re-announced as Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance in 2011 and was released on the 19th of February 2013. So was the 4-year wait worth it, or do the development problems shine through? Let's have a look. The game takes place 4 years after the event of Metal Gear Solid 4, where Raiden, who's now a future cyborg ninja by the way, is a mercenary who is hired to help out an African country. Another group of mercenaries show up who are hell-bent on spreading wars and are involved in turning children into cyborg soldiers. There's a lot of story in this game, so I'm not going to go over all of it, but the story here is really good. It doesn't have the same scope that the normal Metal Gear Solid games have, but it still has a similar kind of feel. This generation of consoles has seen cutscenes appear more and more frequently in games, and have them been longer, so nowadays I end up skipping a lot of cutscenes if I can in a game. However, the cutscenes in Metal Gear Rising really sucked me in, and I found each one to be entertaining and interesting. They did a great job with Raiden in this game and his character, as he's more of an anti-hero who's trying to do good but due to his past as a killer isn't a flat out good guy. One thing I need to mention though is that I was playing the game on the 360 and the cutscenes were poorly compressed. It wasn't a big deal, but it was weird having the in-game graphics be better than the cutscene graphics. I was able to notice it on a 19-inch TV, so if you have the choice, get the PS3 version over the 360 one. The gameplay is based around sword fighting. X does a light fast attack and Y does a slower but stronger attack. Having these two separate attacks means combat is fun, as you can pretty much create your own combos by combining X and Y in any way you feel like. The biggest feature of the combat though is the blade mode. When your meter is full you can enter blade mode, which slows down time and allows Raiden to perform multiple slashes in succession. It's a great idea and makes finishing off enemies very satisfying, as you can slice them into literally hundreds of pieces. Due to blade mode, this game is very violent and bloody, but the game's style makes it cool and enjoyable rather than silly and pointless. Whenever you fight anyone in this game, it feels awesome and it'll make you want to fist pump whenever you take someone down. Something I dislike about the combat though is how you have to be defensive. The only defensive move you have is the parry, where you can block moves if you have good timing. I had a lot of trouble getting the parry to work correctly though, and very quickly in the game stopped trying to use it at all. I will be fair though, I am not good at Metal Gear Rising. I died a lot playing it, and also in this game you're ranked after every battle, but I only managed to get 1 S rank in the whole game. So even though I don't think the parry works that well, I will accept that the chances are that I just suck, and that the majority of people won't have a problem with it. Saying that though, it is odd that the parry is your only defensive move. You can't dodge or roll to avoid attacks, which takes a while to get used to, because your first instinct when you see an attack coming is to get out of the way. But to do this, the only thing you can do is just run, breaking the game's flow. That's the combat's main shortcoming. While it is cool, it just doesn't have that same flow that games like Batman Arkham Asylum have. It's not game breaking, but it's worth noting. Another gameplay mechanic is the ninja run. By holding RT, Raiden will start running and will automatically climb over obstacles. It's very similar to the free running in Assassin's Creed, although here when you use ninja run, Raiden will also block incoming bullets. The ninja run isn't used in the same way as Assassin's Creed due to the linear nature of the levels, but it's definitely fun to use and helps towards the feeling of making you feel like you're controlling a cyborg ninja, rather than just Raiden from Metal Gear Solid 2. Another part of the gameplay is the stealth. While it isn't the focus of the game, there are several parts where you can stay undetected if you're smart enough. If you get above or behind an enemy, you can press B and get an instant kill. The stealth is very basic, and that's why it's good. You don't have to worry about everything that's going on, you just have to either avoid enemies or kill them stealthily. What's also good is that if you're spotted, reinforcements show up and you have to kill everyone to move on, but because the combat is the focus, it's not frustrating getting spotted. It's more of a time saver if you're stealther than a necessity, which is how it should be. Like other Metal Gear Solid games, the bosses are a big part of Metal Gear Rising. They appear more frequently than in other games, and each one has their own personality. While none of them are as interesting as anything from the Cobra unit from Metal Gear Solid 3, they also aren't annoying to fight, unlike certain Metal Gear Solid bosses. Something that's a bit off with most of them though is the difficulty. I do like how you have to figure out a strategy to beating them, but they're split in two, as half of them are really easy and half of them are pretty tough. The reason for this is because some bosses have infinite health drops and some have no health at all. It doesn't make any boss horrible to play, but a boss fight does suffer if you're just grinding health half the time, or if you don't have any healing items at all, so you have to be very careful not to get hit. Something that is nice though is that when you beat certain bosses, you unlock their weapon to use as a sub-weapon. The weapons and upgrade system is really well done in this game, as you can earn points in-game from doing things like, say, eating cyborg spines, and then you can use these points to buy upgrades. You can get health upgrades, weapon upgrades, and new combos. With the combos you can go as deep as you like though, as you can either completely ignore it like I did, or you can memorize your favourite combos to use. Let's get into the major problem with Metal Gear Rising, its pacing and length. It took me 7 hours to beat this game, although admittedly it took me 2 hours to beat the final boss, so most people will probably only take 4 to 5 hours to finish this game. I know games are becoming shorter and shorter nowadays, but if you can beat a game in 4 hours on your first time playing it, then that's kind of lacking. The playtime doesn't include the cutscenes though, so I didn't really feel that shortchanged by the game's length. However, the game has a weird pacing to it. The game is split into 7 chapters, but for some reason the first 3 chapters are much longer than the last 4, with chapter 6 being nothing but one boss fight. It's not really a problem, but I think the game would have been much better if there wasn't chapters at all. One thing I want to mention is the music of this game. It's mostly metal with techno elements thrown in, and it's really good. Each music track has a version with vocals in it, and it's one of the few soundtracks that I own from a video game. Metal Gear Rising Revengance has a lot to offer. The combat is stylish and over the top while being very satisfying to play. The story also is on par with other Metal Gear Solid stories, despite being self-contained and separate from the other games. I'm not usually into Japanese games of this style, but I really enjoy playing through it. There are a few things that stop it from being amazing though, like a few gameplay problems and the game's short length. If you want to know if this game's for you, just look at some footage of it. If you look at it and think, this looks stupid, then you should probably skip it. However, if you think it looks pretty cool, then you absolutely should play it. My score is 7.5 out of 10. There are some problems here, but they don't overshadow what is ultimately a really good game.